And thinking about that, here is our word or expression for the day. This is an expression that probably is uniquely American, and mostly because the expression was created in the United States. But the expression is called is the best thing since sliced bread. Now you might say, well, that's strange. Why sliced bread? And if you notice, the meaning of that means just a really great invention. Well, here's where it came from. So I don't know if you're familiar with this brand. This is still a food brand here. It's called Wonder Bread. And Wonder Bread was one of the first companies in the United States to actually sell bread in a bag that, and then eventually would slice the bread for people to buy. So that way they could make sandwiches. So what happened here is they came up with an ad campaign. So if you notice up here at the top, it says in 1921, they basically said that slicing bread was going to be the next great invention in selling bread. Well, what happened was that idea, they didn't exactly say the best thing since sliced bread, but because people thought they were talking about sliced bread, this became an expression that people would use. So since 1921, people started using this expression to say, this is going to be the next great invention. So in this case, for example, TV is the next great invention, right? So TV is the best thing since sliced bread. So at the bottom of the screen, if you notice, I put my example, which is, I think wireless headphones are the best thing since sliced bread. Now I put that for a reason, and you'll see why in the next thing here. Because the basic idea here is it's an invention that we think is wonderful. It's helped our lives in some way. Okay, so here comes our chat question of the day. So as I mentioned just in the screen before, I think wireless headphones have been a great invention. And I say that because some of you know my wife and I are working at home at the same time right now. So the nice thing is having wireless headphones has really helped my wife and me get through being at home at the same time. Sometimes she's on the phone, sometimes I'm on the computer. And we don't want to bother each other. So wireless headphones helps us to, maybe listen to the TV or the news during different times of the day. So here's my question for everybody. I want you to think about it right now. What invention, what technology, something has helped you the most during this quarantine time? Now, here's the thing. You cannot say your smartphone. Everybody would probably say their smartphone. So what I want you to think about right now is think about around your house. What invention? It could be any invention. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a computer or technology, but I want you to think right now, what invention in your house has helped you the most during this time? It could be something in the kitchen, it could be in the living room, could be something in the bathroom, electric toothbrush, who knows? But maybe in the chat box or in your mic, tell us, what do you think? What has helped you the most during this time? Okay. And this morning. So once again, our expression for the day is the best thing since sliced bread. And honestly, you'll see this a lot, especially in advertising, but people still use this expression today, even though it's from the 1920s. It's still a kind of a popular expression. So again, to think about what inventions, what new things we have, often people might say, yeah, it's the best thing. It's now the best thing I've had. So keep in mind, some people might say, yeah, it's the best thing since sliced bread. So, okay, well, guys, I appreciate you sharing the information there. All right, everybody. Okay, so today we're going to do a little review. So again, the activities for this week, we're focusing on some listening activities and talking about changes in focus. So everyone, you're going to need your paper now, your pencil and paper. And what we're going to do is a little listening activity to begin with. Okay, so if everyone's got their pencil and paper. Okay, so in this activity, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a sentence. And I'm going to put focus in a specific place in that sentence. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose which one is going to be the appropriate response. Now, let's look first at the responses over on the right side of the screen, okay? Now, first off, there are 6 responses, but there are only 5 sentences that I'm going to read. So in this case, one of the answers will not be used. So that's a little bit tricky, okay? But let's go ahead and look at the responses first. So I'm going to read them real quickly, and you can just practice them, to yourself there at home. Okay. So real quickly, I'm just going to say them. So I'm starting with A. It says, no, I said 2 coffees. B, sorry, it's Boston, Massachusetts. C, she's Sylvia, I'm Lisa. D, no, I said 3 Cokes. E, well, it's Boston, Massachusetts. And finally, F, it's Sylvia, Sylvia Lewis. Okay? So those are the appropriate responses that you're going to use. Now, what I'm going to do is on the left side, I'm going to read a sentence, and I'll read each one 2 times. What I want you to do at home, there on your piece of paper, is just select which one you think is the appropriate response. Okay? So that's it. I'm going to say a sentence over on the left side. You choose which response would be the correct response or the appropriate response. All right, so here we go, guys. Again, I'm going to read each one 2 times. Here's number 1. Your first name is Lisa, isn't it? Lisa Stewart? Okay, let me repeat it again. Your first name is Lisa, isn't it? Lisa Stewart? Okay, number 2. Oh, I thought you wanted 2 Cokes. Oh, I thought you wanted 2 Cokes. Number 3. Did you enjoy going to Boston, Kentucky? Did you enjoy going to Boston, Kentucky? Number 4. Here you go. 2 T's. Here you go. 2 T's. Number 5. Hi, Sylvia. How are you? Hi, Sylvia. How are you? Okay, I'm going to repeat them one more time. Number 1, your first name is Lisa, isn't it? Lisa Stewart. Number 2, oh, I thought you wanted 2 Cokes. Number 3, did you enjoy going to Boston, Kentucky? Number 4, here you go. 2 T's. Number 5, hi, Sylvia. How are you? Okay, so now let's go ahead. I'm going to show you the sentences and we'll match up with the answers. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, the sentence was, your first name is Lisa, isn't it? Lisa Stewart. Okay, so in this case, the answer you're looking for is letter F. Okay, so if you notice, the person is confused about their first name and they're confused about their last name. So your first name is Lisa, Lisa Stewart. She says, no, it's Sylvia, Sylvia Lewis. So in this case, number 1 is letter F. Okay. All right. Number 2. Oh, I thought you wanted 2 Cokes. In this case, the answer is letter D. So notice the person is confused about the number. So in this case, when they said 2 Cokes, no, the person said I wanted 3 Cokes. So again, that's where the mistake was. That's where the confusion was. Okay, number 3. Did you enjoy going to Boston, Kentucky? Now, first off, guys, there really is a Boston, Kentucky. So it's a real place. I didn't make it up, but it's very small. But in this case, notice the person is confused about which state. So notice the answer, sorry, it's Boston, Massachusetts, not Boston, Kentucky. So in this case, the answer would be B. Okay, number 4. Here you go, 2 T's. So notice in this case, the person is confused about what they ordered, and the answer would be A. No, I said 2 coffees. So in this case, T was the wrong word. Okay. And then finally, for number 5, hi Sylvia, how are you? Well, notice the only response that makes sense would be letter C, because now the person is confused about which person is Sylvia. So in this case, and the answer would be C. She, Sylvia, I'm Lisa. So notice the answer we did not use was letter E. Okay? Now, if that was, if that was a difficult activity, again, part of the challenge is thinking about where is the focus being placed. So once again, let's go through real quickly. And what I want you to do just at home, you can practice real quickly with me. Let's say let's say the answer on the sentence on the left side and the response on the right. Okay, so now just practice along with me. So guys, you can repeat after me. Your first name is Lisa, isn't it? Lisa Stewart. It's Sylvia. Sylvia Lewis. Okay. All right, let's try number 2. Oh, I thought you wanted 2 Cokes. No, I said 3 Cokes. Okay, number 3. Did you enjoy going to Boston, Kentucky? Sorry, it's Boston, Massachusetts. Number 4. Here you go, 2 T's. No, I said 2 coffees. Okay, and finally, hi Sylvia, how are you? She's Sylvia, I'm Lisa. Now, again, I hope we were able to to identify the correct answers. But remember, the idea is in listening to the sentence on the left side, we have to think about what would be the context for each situation. So that's part of the challenge when we're listening to conversations is we have to kind of understand what the person is saying. What does the person mean when they say the first line? And then that will affect what we're going to say on the second line. Okay? Now, this next activity that we're going to do, this time we're going to kind of participate together. And in this case, we're going to think about how would we participate in the conversation and where would we use these changes in focus depending on the sentence. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is clear the screen and I'm going to show you what we're going to do in the next activity. Okay. So in this next activity, I'm going to post a short dialogue, and depending on how much time we have, we might do 2 dialogues. And the first thing we're going to think about is we're going to try to identify where do we think the focus is going to be placed in each line of the dialogue. Now, for your homework from this week, from last week to this week, again, some of the activities you're doing is thinking about where would we place the focus. For example, is somebody confused in the dialogue? Are there issues of disagreement? Does someone need information corrected? So in this case, we're going to do this kind of activity together. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of the mic and a little bit of the chat box to help us with this next activity. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring up on the screen some short dialogues. And again, don't forget, we're going to think about where are we going to change focus. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this link. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see now the first dialogue, and I'll zoom in here to make it a little easier for us. That's maybe too big. Okay. All right, so here's dialogue number 1. Okay, now I'm going to open up the chat box, but we can use our microphones too. And the first thing I want you to do, though, is I want you just to look at the dialogue. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see it. Okay, I want to turn off my annotations. Okay. Okay, so just take a moment. Everyone, look at the dialogue. Just take a moment and look at it. Okay, take another 30 seconds to look at the dialogue. Okay. All right, so hopefully we had a chance to look at the dialogue. Now, the first thing I want us to think about in analyzing this dialogue is to think about where would we place the focus. Now, let's review a couple of things from something we talked about in the videos for this week and some of the activities that hopefully you've been practicing with. So if you remember, one of the things we discussed is when the conversation begins, we have to think about what we call normal focus. So as a conversation begins, generally we have to think about following the meaning of the conversation. So for example, in thinking about the very beginning of the dialogue, so again, this is where we're going to use the chat box first, okay? So in the chat box, real quickly, in the very first line, how do you get to work in the morning? Do you walk or ride the bus? Where do you think might be the normal focus in these first 2 sentences? Now remember, there could be more than one word. So if you remember, we usually put focus towards the end of questions and sentences. So everybody, what do you think might be the normal focus in this first sentence? And we'll use our chat box for this just very first activity. But what do you think it might be? Do you think it might be work? Do you think it might be morning? So we've got 2 choices here. Which one do you think? Is it work or is it morning? Okay, just put your opinion in the chat box. What do you think? Okay, so what do you think? Is it going to be work or is it going to be morning? Okay. All right, just looks like just about everybody's given an opinion. All right, now, for example, I'm going to read it and I want you to listen and see if you can identify where I put the focus. Okay, so just listen. How do you get to work in the morning? How do you get to work in the morning? Now, which word did you hear? Yeah, hopefully we heard the word work. Okay, so again, the idea is, and again, we're not going to use the chat box for all of this activity because it's hard, I know, to go back and forth. So we're going to use our microphones in just a moment. But the idea is to think about, at the beginning of a sentence, where would we put the normal focus? So in this case, the normal focus is probably going to be on the word work. Now, does that mean that it's always going to be on the word work? Well, the idea is, no, it's not. But that might be where I might consider, because that's the most important idea in the sentence. Okay. All right. Now let's use our microphones for the next one. So in this case, the next one, it says walk or ride the bus. I've got a choice. Which word or words do you think are going to be the focus now in the next sentence? Again, you can use the microphones for this activity.
Walk.
Okay. So I hear walk. Do you think there might be more than one?
And bus.
Ride the bus.
Okay, so what I say, do you walk or ride the bus?
Yeah.
Or do
Walk,
I say both
and
walk?
bus.
What do you think?
I think it's walk and ride.
Aha,
Do you
so,
walk or ride the bus?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe in this case, because we have a choice, see the word or there? Do
Yeah.
you walk or ride the bus? Maybe what we might do, in this case, maybe we might say, do you walk or ride the bus? Maybe walk and bus would be the choices here. And part of the reason is I think we can guess that we wouldn't say, do you walk or ride the bus? That might be a little confusing. Somebody might say, how do I walk the bus? So in this case, maybe the word bus would be the focus word, okay? So how do you get to work in the morning? Do you walk or ride the bus? Aha, there we go. So maybe in this case, we would put the focus on walk and bus. And in fact, notice we might use a little bit of that hesitation. Do you walk or ride the bus? Okay, so then we fall at the end. Okay, all right, excellent. All right, so we're kind of getting the idea now. All right, now let's continue. So let's look now at the next line of dialogue. Okay, so in the next line of dialogue, and again, we'll use the microphone now. What do you think in this next sentence would be the choice? Where would be the focus now?
Walk.
Walk.
Okay,
Walk.
I walk here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, what about in the next sentence?
Walk.
Two.
Walk to, yes.
Two.
Two, maybe?
Two.
Okay, yeah, because again, what is the meaning of the sentence? Well, the first sentence says, how do you get to work? Walk or ride? Okay, so the person says walk. Now, in this case, what the person is saying, you know, you too, you should do it, right? So maybe we could put the emphasis on two. You should walk to work too. You know, you too, right? Okay, all right, what about the next line?
Exercise.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's good exercise. Okay,
Exercise.
all right, excellent. Okay. All right. Okay, now let's look at our next line. Now remember, this sentence has two parts, so we might have more than one focus.
Do.
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 Okay, so I see do. Okay, what about in the first part of the sentence?
Fact.
Okay, so, well, let's see. I hear two choices. Now, I'm going to say it. You guys listen. As a matter of fact.
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 Yeah, remember, this one's right before the comma. So if you remember, we called this the hesitation. So the hesitation is usually going to be on the last word, or the last word of meaning, right? As a matter of fact, now I like everybody's choice for the next one. I do walk to work. Yes, so I'm proud of this fact, right? All right, let's continue, guys. We're doing a great job. All right, so the next sentence.
But.
I hear but, is that correct? The first word?
Seen.
You.
Now, wait a minute, guys. We're just saying every sentence, every word in the sentence now. Well, let's think, what's the meaning of the sentence? Let's go back to the sentence before. As a matter of fact, I do walk to work. Okay, so this person is trying to say, you know, I do this. This is what I do. So the question is, what is the meaning of the sentence?
Seen.
Seen.
But I've seen you on the bus. Is it the fact I've seen you?
Uh-huh.
On what?
On
though?
the bus. But.
Bus.
All right, once again, we're just saying every word I say. Now, I do want to mention, guys, I think what you're thinking, which actually would be good, maybe if the person, for example, maybe if I had this little pause in between, so for example, I put 3 little dots there, I would agree with you that the person might say, but, like they might emphasize this word to say, I know that this is wrong. So yeah, it's possible that if the person paused a little bit, maybe we would put some focus on but I still think there would still be another focus word in the second part of the sentence. Now, here's what I want everybody to do. I just want you to listen first, okay? So one of the challenges of trying to figure out where focus is thinking about if I listen to it in different ways, let's see what each one might mean. Okay, remember, when English speakers put focus, they're trying to give some sort of meaning to it. Okay, so I'm going to read the second part of the sentence, and I'm going to choose a few of the words you suggested. Okay, so listen again. I've seen you on the bus. I've seen you on the bus. I've seen you on the bus. Now, each one has a slightly different meaning. So for example, if I emphasize the word seen, but I've seen you on the bus, what do you think the meaning of that sentence would be? Again, think about how we're correcting or clarifying something here.
That means you were in the bus.
Okay, so Saba, in this case, maybe the person says, I don't take the bus, but I've seen you on the bus. Do you see the difference there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, it's possible that if I emphasize the word seen, that's because the person said before, I never take the bus. The bus never, right? But in this case, if they choose the word seen, maybe, you know, they're saying, wait a minute, I know you've been on the bus, right? So again, maybe. Let's keep that as a maybe. All right, let's try the word you, but I've seen you on the bus.
You. Yes.
What do you think would be the meaning here?
You.
Not he, not she.
Yeah, so
You.
you, yeah. So in this case, not this person, not this person. I've
But
seen you on the bus.
sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. In this case, notice the person is saying, I do walk to work. Well, guys, to remember earlier in the conversation, the choice was walking or riding the bus, right? Not just walking or riding, it's riding the bus. So in this case, let's try it with the word bus again. But I've seen you on the bus. Now, what do you think now?
I think bus.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe, the emphasis might be on the word bus. Because again, the original choice was, did you walk or ride the bus? Now, guys, I do think it's possible. This is just my opinion. It is possible sometimes to emphasize different parts of the sentence, and maybe the meaning isn't so different. So, for example, if we chose the word bus, I think that probably would be clearer. However, if you wanted to emphasize the word seen, like I've seen you on the bus, like I know you take the bus, then here's my opinion. I think you probably could choose seen or bus. I think both could probably still get the same basic idea. So in this case, I don't know that there's enough information that tells us that one is necessarily better than the other. Now, the question is, which one might I use if I'm speaking to somebody? So for example, when they say, as a matter of fact, I do walk to work, but I've seen you on the bus. I might emphasize the word bus, but somebody is, maybe they're thinking, okay, wait a minute, maybe you're lying to me. So in this case, they might say, but I've seen you on the bus. Like, I know you take the bus. So again, I could probably agree that you could choose seen or maybe bus. I think that both might be a possible answer. Okay, now let's continue. So the person says, so let's start with the first part. How would you say? So maybe you have. So what do you think? Have? Yeah, so that's the first part of the sentence. Yeah, okay, so maybe you have. Okay, look at this next part. This next part's a little long, but how do you suppose I get to the bus? What do you think?
Maybe you have.
Suppose.
Suppose.
But how do you suppose I get to the bus? Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. Could there be other possibilities?
Get.
Aha, let's try that one. Let's listen to the sentence.
Get. Yes.
Maybe you have, but how do you suppose I get to the
Get
bus?
to bus.
What do you think? But how do you suppose I get to the bus? See, now what's the question? See, notice what he says. Maybe you have. Like, yes, maybe I have taken the bus. You caught me. But how do you suppose I get to the bus? Like, yes, you're correct, but I have to still get to the bus. All right, so what about the last part there?
Walk.
I walk.
Yeah, I walk. Yes, so
Walk.
can you imagine this person being very dramatic? I think of this person as like an actor. I walk. So maybe this is you. Are you a dramatic person? My wife says I have too much energy in the morning. She thinks I'm a morning person. So this is me in the morning, right? I walk. All right, what about the next sentence? This one's a little tricky.
walk, walk, and.
Okay, so I hear a vote for and. Why do you think and?
And.
What do you think? Why and?
Not or, and.
Aha, that's right,
Oh.
both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, so you walk and ride the bus.
Bus.
All right, very good. And of course, the last one's easy, right? Yeah, we only have one word. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, now, here's what we're going to do. So we got to... So let me go ahead now and switch back to our presentation. And what I'd like to do here is kind of talk about what we're going to do next for our next week activity. Okay, so once again, this is a preview of what we'll be doing next week. So I'm going to explain what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's next, and then I'll kind of show you what we're going to be doing. Okay. Now, first off, everybody, there's not going to be a group chat next week. Okay, now don't get disappointed here. I'm sure you're disappointed, but we're not going to do the Wednesday group chat. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be scheduling some small group sessions. So what we did here this morning is going to be very much something we're going to do next week. Now, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to schedule these group sessions with me and 2 people at the same time. So there'll be 3 of us together in this small group session. And I will have times available next Tuesday in the afternoon and evening, Wednesday. And so the reason why we don't have our group chat on Wednesday is because I want to give all day Wednesday to times when students can do the group activity. So in this case, it was going to be very difficult to do the group chat and the small group activity at the same time. So what we'll do is we'll have times all through Wednesday, and then we will also have times on Thursday. And again, it'll be morning and afternoon for students to sign up for a small group session. And what you and your partner are going to do is pretty much like what we did right here. Now, the idea is in our Google Classroom, so probably this evening, I'm going to go ahead and post the conversations that you guys are going to do in our small group activity. And it's going to be very much like what we just did, except you and your partner are going to work together to think about how you would say the dialogue. So the idea is today is kind of a demonstration of thinking about which words would we emphasize. And then what you're going to do is you and your partner are going to act out the dialogue, kind of read it together, read it just like we did today. And then we're going to talk about the answers that you and your partner chose. Now, what I'm going to do is post conversations. Now, it does not mean we're going to do all 3. Okay, each session is going to be about 30 minutes. So as you can see, it may be too difficult to do all 3 dialogues in 30 minutes, but I'm going to post those 3 conversations to the Google Classroom. And what you can do from now until then is you can study those conversations. So that's the idea. The idea is you will see the dialogues before the activity. So today was kind of like a surprise. I showed you the dialogues and we worked together. But for next week, you will actually get a chance to study the dialogues, and you can think about how you might read the dialogue. So again, there'll be time for you to discuss with your partner at the time, but then you will basically get the chance to do the dialogue. So what's going to happen is immediately after this chat, I'm going to send the scheduling survey. So you can tell me which times you would prefer. So again, you'll see that pretty much right after this meeting, and you can indicate, just like you did a couple of weeks ago, which times are going to be good for you. And so the idea is I wanted to give the maximum flexibility. So that's why we do not have the group chat next week. Okay, so I just wanted to go ahead and mention that because I'm going to be meeting with all the students next week. So now, in order to continue though to talk about our schedule, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the rest of the spring and the summer schedule. Now, I think most of you were in yesterday's chat for the low intermediate group. So you already know this already. But for those of you who were not in the chat yesterday, we're going to continue the spring session until Thursday, May 14th. So that's basically 2 more weeks. We're going to take a short break here in the online environment, so I need a little break. So from May 18th to Monday, May 25th, we're not going to have classes for these chats, okay? And then we're going to start the summer session basically on Tuesday, May 26th, and we're going to continue until Wednesday, July 1st. So the idea is we will finish for the summer on July 1st. So the reason I'm telling you this now is because we are not returning to the classroom for the summer. The college has informed us that we're going to be finishing the year online in the computer environment, just like this. Now, I'm sure if you have kids, your kids are probably in the same situation. So in this case, we're kind of getting used to the online format, and actually I've kind of liked doing some things online. So I hope you guys have liked it too. It's definitely not the same as the classroom, but still it's an experience, right? Now, before we continue, because I want to show you just real quickly what the Google Classroom activities will look like. The final chat, the final group chat for this class will be Wednesday, May 13th. So again, next week we have no group chat, and then the following week, the week after that, Wednesday, May 13th will be the final spring online chat for the group. So again, we'll do a 10 a.m. and a 7 p.m. chat for that time. But remember, next week,